Hi everybody, it's Matthew Mashler, real estate broker with Signature Real Estate Finder, and today we're going to answer the question, how much money should you put down when you buy your next house? Thank you for joining us here in these videos, and always remember, make sure you subscribe, like, or comment below. Let me know if these videos are helpful. You can always ask what topics you would like to see me cover. I'm always happy to listen for new topics and new suggestions, and always want to engage with my audience and answer whatever questions you might have. And for instance, today we're answering the question, how much money should you put down when you're buying a house? So before we start, I have to say I'm not a financial advisor. Any real financial questions or financial planning questions that you have, you may need to talk to an investment advisor or an expert. But let's talk about real estate. How much money should you put down? You may hear a lot of various theories, and opinions are like flavors of ice cream, right? Everyone has their favorite. Some people want to put down a lot of money, right? Maybe pay for their whole house in cash. Maybe you're older and on a fixed income, and this way you know you have a place to live for the rest of your life. Other people might think that borrowing money from the bank on your primary residence is inexpensive debt, and they want to borrow as much as they can and use their money for something else. So neither is right, neither is wrong. That's just a personal preference. When somebody asks, how much money should I put down? There's really two different questions, and they're not related to each other. One is the financial question of, should I own it for cash? Should I finance it? What those terms are, and what my payments are going to be along the way. There's a completely unrelated question that may be asked, and you have to, as a real estate agent, you have to understand what's being asked of you. The other aspect to the same question is, what are you putting in your offer so that way you could get your offer accepted? A lot of times, terms other than the price of the house will be considered by the seller, right? Two offers for the same amount of money, one's cash, one's financing, the seller's going to choose the cash offer. Even two financing offers can look very different if one offer is putting 3% down and one offer is putting 50% down, right? So first we'll talk about what we're putting in the offer, the strategies to get the offer accepted, and then we'll talk about the financial ramifications of the decision of how much you're putting down and how much you're financing for the term of the loan. Okay, you're with me? Let's get started. When you're making an offer, if you want to make the strongest, best offer possible, you want to make a cash offer, or you want to make an offer with the most money down that you can. Generally in Florida, there's two deposits. An initial deposit, that's to hold the property for you, to get the property inspected and make sure that you want the property. And then once inspections are over, you may make a second, larger deposit. So for the terms of this conversation, let's combine those first two deposits. That's how much you're putting down in your offer, and that's what you're going to use to get your offer accepted. Right? No seller is going to want to take their house off the market if the deposit is shitty, right? You're not taking your property off the market for $5,000 down and then the rest at closing, right? Alternatively, you put 10% down as your initial offer and 30% down, 50% down as your second deposit. That's a strong offer, almost as good as cash. Now, let's talk about the cash offer. Just because you're making a cash offer doesn't mean you can't get a loan. It also doesn't mean that you're showing up with a duffel bag of cash. You cannot literally bring cash money, paper money in a bag to the closing. The attorneys will not accept it, the closing agents will not accept it, the sellers will not accept it. Sometimes you do have shady sellers that might want to take $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 in cash and make that a side deal of the contract. Be very, very careful. Do not do that, is what I'm saying. Let's just say you're not bringing actual hard money, printed cash in a duffel bag when you make a cash offer. You're doing a wire at the closing. The buyer is wiring the money to the closing agent, and that's a cash offer. What it means is that the buyer is not getting financing. Neither the seller nor the closing agent cares if the wire that comes in for the closing is money that the buyer had in an account, or if the buyer sold stock, freed up money and wired the money, or if the buyer is borrowing the money from a bank or a friend. It doesn't matter where the money's coming from. What a cash offer means is that the buyer doesn't have a mortgage contingency. The buyer cannot cancel the contract if the buyer's mortgage is not approved. The buyer doesn't have the right to get out. It gives the seller the certainty to know that the property will close and the seller can call the moving trucks and move and buy the replacement residence. If the buyer is coming in with a very small deposit and a mortgage contingency that lasts up until the closing, the seller can never be sure that the property is really going to close on time. So a strong offer is a cash offer or an offer with a very large deposit. Now, just because you made a large deposit doesn't mean you can't borrow more than that from the bank. If you're buying a house for $600,000 and you put down a 50% deposit, $300,000, you can still borrow from the bank. A quick example, let's say you're putting down 50% because you've made a lot of offers, you can't get them approved, you really want this house, or your wife really wants this house, and so you put 50% down, you put $300,000 down on a $600,000 house. That seller is going to be like, yeah, I'll accept that, and choose your offer over someone else's offer. But if you're going to borrow 80% from the bank, that's fine. You can still borrow from the bank, and the money that's left over in the escrow account will be returned to you after the closing. So when we're talking about how much money should you put down for a house, we're talking about what we're putting in the offer. And the answer is as much as you can. 3%, because FHA loans can be as low as 3%. If that's all you could put down, okay, but the chance of your offer being accepted is greatly reduced. So if you don't want to raise your purchase price, you can make your offer more attractive to a seller by raising the amount of your deposit. I have a lot of customers who put down as little as possible. That way they can use the money that they borrow from their banks to purchase and finance the next property and the next property and the next property, and they build their portfolio and they build a tremendous amount of wealth using this process. So if you have any questions about that, if you want to become a real estate investor or you want to explore any of these opportunities further, feel free to reach out to me in the comments, Matt@realestatefinder.com, on Instagram. Obviously, you don't want to talk about your personal finances on social media. I get it. We'll have a private consultation. We'll set up a Zoom or meet in person. I just took some new office space on Glades Road, 8177 Glades Road, right by the Burger King. We have a great conference room we set up there. We're setting up a new podcast room. So love to talk real estate. That's what I do. Love to answer your questions. So if something I said helped you out, if you got your offer accepted, let me know so we can make that sound.